Dr. Maria Ángeles Ayer. So we don't have time for questions, unfortunately, but we still have that question in there. Is innovation possible without taking into consideration more than half of the population, right? Let's wait for a few seconds, and we will be introducing you our next speakers, because we're having a round table.
En este caso, así que muchísimas gracias porque ha sido una ponencia magistral. Jarraitzen dugu. Jakina da benetako.
Let's go on. A real change, a paradigm shift is necessary. Life is about movement, right? Movement is life. We need change, a real change. A paradigm shift requires a change in our structure, in the structure where gender inequality is based. So what is reflected in our everyday lives from what we believe, and we need to implement policies that affect the whole of the society, and we need to concentrate in the groups of people that are underrepresented, especially in science and technology. We need to look at the root causes of the existing issues. Global Conference on Women held in Beijing was a milestone in the struggle for equality, and two main strategies were established there: the empowerment of women and girls on the one hand, and the inclusion of gender perspective in all fields of life on the other hand. As Dr. Sayer has explained in her presentation, these fields require from us to work further. In Europe, women are underrepresented in the positions of leadership. 14.8% of startup founders are women. So things are getting worse when it comes to funding. In Spain, female researchers are increasing and represent 42% of the researching staff, but in the field of entrepreneurs, we're only for 31%. In Euskadi, an excellence hub in R&D and I, we have. Do we have more young people choosing science and technology career? Well, apparently we do, but women only represent 17.9%. We're moving forward, there's no doubt about that, but we still need to keep working. Where are the resistances here? What are the policies and the norms that we need at a European and national, Spanish and Basque level to face the existing challenges? We are going to be talking about all of this in this round table. We're going to be talking about Europe as well, the Basque country. We're having a wonderful chair, Madame Pilar Kaltzada, who is a reporter and advisor of strategic communication in linking ideas. Thank you very much indeed. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here as chair. I'm very honored to be able to participate in this conference, and particularly this round table. You've asked us to look at the long run, and this is what we want to do in this round table. We need to draw some conclusions together. And anyhow, I really feel really honored to be here. I thank the organizers for their invitation. I believe that it is necessary and urgent for us to talk about gender equality. The aim of this roundtable is for us to be able to get a picture of the situation, because we expect too much sometimes from legislation and standards, but we know they're fundamental to establish the playing field. Sometimes we believe they're enough to change things. But, well, we know that we need to ask from public policies to manage reality and to help us to build a better future. And this is the topic today. We need to have this vision, and I am honored to be here introducing you to wonderful and high-level specialist, these 3 levels of competencies that we're going to be dealing with. We're going to be looking at the European level, the Spanish level, and also the Basque level, of course. And we'll do it by hearing 2 highly professional voices. We're going to be having the opportunity of having them here. We're going to be listening to the presentations, and I'm telling you that you have 12 minutes each. I'll be very strict with time management, and then there will be time for questions. So we encourage you to raise questions here in this Miramar Palace, and also if you want to ask questions over the internet. There are some colleagues ready to collect your questions. So let me now introduce the 3 panel members and Pépin from Horizon Europe.
Thank you. Silvia Rueda, del Ministerio.
Silvia Rueda from the Ministry of Science and Innovation of Spain. Cristina Uriarte, High Commissioner for Science, Technology and Innovation in the Basque Country. Thank you very much.
Voy a colocar aquí nuestras cosas y arrancamos con la...
So let's start with our conversation. I was saying that norms organize a playing field, and they are, or they could be, tools for transformation as well. And maybe this is an interesting way to see things.
La 4ª persona que está interviniendo y no lo sabemos, no lo sé.
Creo que es...
There seems to be some noise, right? Is it okay? No, it's not, I'm afraid.
Si no, nos acercan un micro de mano y lo solucionamos.
Otherwise, we can get a hand mic, and that will be it. But we're not going to waste our time, okay? Because we're going to be needing every minute we have. I was saying that our main goal was to look at things from 3 different levels. Oh, it was me, actually.
Que centremos.
And for that, I'm going to be asking you to kindly give us some context. You're going to be having 12 minutes each. And then later on, there will be time for questions. We need to understand how, at a political level, with the standards and norms we have, we can help transformation to occur. We know it needs to be deep, systemic, urgent, and risky sometimes. Let me introduce you very briefly to the first speaker, Anne Pépin. She is responsible of she's a representative from the European Commission and works in gender and the new law for science, technology and innovation. She started working on this 6 years back as responsible to develop the policies on gender equality in the European research space in the framework program of the Horizon Europe of the EU. She has a long career. If I'm not mistaken, you are now on a leave to work on this public task, because you are director of a national research center in France, CNRS, where you worked between 2012-2017. You led the strategic unit on policy and gender equality. So you have a broad personal and professional experience in the field. A pleasure having you, Anne. The floor is all yours.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
English, because that's about... So I don't speak Basque yet, and my Spanish is a little rusty. So I will continue in English, and I'll try to give you, after the great presentation that you got, really presenting the core issues about gender equality in higher education, research and innovation. Here I will give you an overview of the European policies in this area. So I'll try to go as quickly as I can, but be as clear as I can. So, at the level of the Commission itself, so it's really recent developments. A lot of momentum has been given by the College of Commissioners that Ursula von der Leyen, as a president of the Commission, put in place. She decided that there would be a Commissioner for Equality. It was the first time. And she also put in place a task force on equality where all the directorates generals have representation. So there's really a cross-commission effort into advancing on gender equality and equality at a broader level. And just for more recent news, we have a new commissioner, Iliana Ivanova, who is replacing Maria Gabriel. And just as Maria Gabriel, she is very supportive of gender equality, and it's also the case for the director generals that we had. From the start, Ursula von der Leyen defined an objective to achieve a union of equality, and a series of equality strategies have been adopted since then. The first one was Yes. The first one was the gender equality strategy for 2020-2025. And already in that document, research and innovation was explicitly addressed. Horizon Europe, the next framework program for research and innovation, was mentioned. And the possibility to request a gender equality plan from applicants was announced. And also the fact, which was new, that there would be explicit funding for gender studies and for intersectional research that would be made available. It wasn't the case in the framework programs before. Then 5 more strategies have been adopted. You may know that there's a directive on combating gender-based violence, violence against women and domestic violence that's currently being examined in the Parliament, and it has been examined in the Council. So quite a lot has been going on. But the framework, the policy framework for research and innovation is the European research area. And since that's not what I wanted to do. Since 2012, gender equality and gender mainstreaming in research has been a priority. One of the 5, which became 6 priorities, and there were 3 explicit objectives. Gender equality in careers at all levels, gender balance in decision-making, and the integration of the gender dimension into the research and innovation content. So taking into account potential biological differences, so sex, and also social-cultural norms, relations, identities, so gender in the analysis, so as variables, and that was already presented to you in some of the slides of Professor Saleh before. So, and the idea to do that was to do a systemic approach through institutional change, structural changes. And that also at 3 levels, at the member states and associated countries. And so the Council conclusions were adopted, and even specific conclusions on advancing gender equality in the European research area. And in those, one of the key instruments put forward was national ERA action plans and gender equality plans, and stakeholders, so research performing organizations, universities and research institutes, and research funding organizations were encouraged to adopt gender equality plan. The Commission itself was there to support it, and over 200 research performing and research funding organizations and public bodies as well, because some ministries have been funded to implement gender equality plans. So under the 7th framework program, it started. It really increased the support under Horizon 2020 for a total budget of over 72 million euros. And a lot of knowledge accumulated on how to implement gender equality plans, on tools that exist, and a collaboration with the European Institute for Gender Equality to give step-by-step guidance on how to implement gender equality plans. So over 10 years ago, already the effort, but more recently in 2021, a new package was adopted by the Council with a pact for research and innovation in Europe, which defines as key values and principles gender equality and inclusiveness, and a very important document, which is the ERA policy agenda, here until 2024, with 20 actions that the member states say we're going to work together on this to achieve some deliverables. And one of these actions is to promote gender equality and foster inclusiveness, taking note of the Ljubljana Declaration, which was spearheaded by the Slovenian presidency, and that laid the ground for what I will show in the next slides with our key deliverables that we have with this Action 5. So the idea is very much to coordinate the policy and to define an approach on inclusive gender equality plan and policies. By that we mean opening to intersections with other personal identities and social categorizations, so ethnicity, racial origin, disability, sexual orientation. And there are two more specific objectives: to define together a strategy to counteract gender-based violence, and to develop principles for the integration and the evaluation of a gender perspective to the content of research and innovation, and working specifically with the funding organization. So this, to implement this, the new governance structure, which is the ERA Forum, decided to create a specific subgroup, because it's important to really have experts on this topic work on it. So the activity of the subgroup started in March, and you can see that, sorry, no, this is going too fast. I think I'm not using this correctly. There. So that 22 member states, including Spain, have said, we commit to the implementation of this action. Associated countries and 14 stakeholder umbrella organizations. So that's a novelty, really, in the governance, to have the higher education organizations, to have also the performing organization, and the CICIC is part of the G6, for example, to have the young researchers, to have the academies and the funders working together in trying to advance on these deliverables. And that's Action 5, but there's also other actions that are quite, that have strong synergies with Action 5, and I'll just cite two. So Action 3 is really on the reform of the assessment system, and you may know of the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment. There are 10 principles on a reform of how you evaluate researchers and research and institutions, and Principle 10 is about ensuring gender equality, and that's a novelty, and it's very stakeholder-driven. Action 4 on research careers. This summer, the Commission adopted a proposal on a framework for a research career, and one key novelty in that framework is a new charter for researchers. You may be familiar with the Charter and Code that existed at European level, and there was a human resources strategy for researchers, a specific label that an organization could have if they had an action plan for human resources. It followed the Charter and Code, and now it's a new charter. Oh, sorry. You're gonna get seasick. So here, this is really for researchers, employers, funders, and policymakers. It's everybody, and there's updated principle, much more comprehensive on gender equality, about gender balance, integration of the gender dimension into the contents of teaching and research. Gender-based violence is mentioned, also opening to intersectionality, and using gender equality plan. It's all in that new charter. And another article is also on embracing diversity. Now, Horizon Europe. The point is to translate the policy into the funding. But already, we went ahead, and building on all the knowledge and all the projects we had funded, we adopted strengthened provision in gender in Horizon Europe at 3 levels. having a gender equality plan is an eligibility criterion. You don't have it, you don't receive money for certain categories. And integrating the gender dimension into the content of research is mandatory by default, and it's an award criterion, so an evaluation criterion. And gender balance in the research teams is a ranking criterion when you have proposals at the same score. And a novelty as well is that we're having an inclusive approach to gender identity. You can declare your identity along 3 categories: women, men, and non-binary. The eligibility criterion. I'll go fast, yes. So it's for all public bodies, research organizations, higher education establishment, member state associated countries. It's a self-declaration. So we don't ask the organization to upload a gender equality plan, but they have to attest that it covers these 4 requirements. Be a public document, have dedicated resources, have be evidence-built, so collect data that's sex or gender disaggregated, and training on gender equality issues, including unconscious biases. And we recommend these 5 thematic areas that you'll recognize, and they've been addressed in the speech earlier: work-life balance, organizational culture, gender balance in leadership, decision-making, gender equality throughout the recruitment and the promotion in the career progression, integrating, again, the gender dimension into the concept of research and teaching, and measures against gender-based violence. And we also, we try to help organizations understand, comply with this, so there are all types of tools that we created, more are coming up, and we try to monitor the impact that this has had. Already, we have quite some proof that it is changing. It is creating a paradigm shift across Europe. It's just starting. It's not enough, but things are changing. But we also need to check that what people say they have is the truth. So every year, there will be compliance checks. And also to complement this, we created a new prize for the organizations that are really the most advanced in implementing gender equality plans and obtaining results. And there was a first edition last year, and the next one will be open very soon. So pay attention. I'm sure there are organizations in the Basque country that could apply to this. So, and I'll just say just a few words about the integration of the gender dimension. As I said, it's an umbrella term for sex and gender analysis. It's part of the methodology that needs to be in all research and innovation actions in Horizon Europe. And again, we created tools to help applicants, but also reviewers understand what this means. There was a report that came out in 2020, Gendered Innovations 2, where you have many case studies, methodologies on how to do it. You will have my slides if you're interested. There are many more tools here to how to do that in different fields. And just to say that the ranking criterion is not actually the first one. You first have to prove that you cover what's in the call topic. Then they compare scores on excellence and impact, and then comes the gender balance criterion. And almost done. We also have money to help implement that. So there's a specific work program part, which is widening participation and strengthening the European research area. Sorry, this is going too fast, but some key projects have already started. One is really a center of excellence on how do you create this inclusive gender equality policies and plans. What's in it? How do you measure it? What are the indicators? And also how to work with member states to develop that. Also a project here that's really about gender-responsive innovation, and also support to implement gender equality plans. And that's my last slide. And I will highlight this one because this is really focusing on the STEM fields and the STEAM fields, so putting also arts humanities, and the social context into teaching and research in the STEM fields. And a project with a lot of stakeholders has been selected. It's called Stream It, and it's not yet started. It will start in 2024, so stay posted. Maybe some of you are part of that project, I don't know. And I will stop here, just say that we have a website that you can always consult for recent updates on the policy, on the funding that's available, and I will thank you for your attention.
Feels like it could be available for the people.
Yes.
Vamos muy rápidamente.
Okay, we're going to go very quickly now on to our next speaker. Thank you very much. It seems to be my microphone that's playing up. I do apologize for that. So very quickly, let me introduce you to Silvia Rueda. She is an IT engineer. She got her degree at the University of Valencia. She also works in promoting female talent. Currently, she works at the Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation, and she is the director of the Women and Science Department. So, Silvia, perhaps you can help us to understand what's going on in public policy here in Spain.
Vale, perfecto. Ya la tenemos aquí. Bueno, pues yo lo que venía hoy...
Right, well, I'm here today to talk about one of the elements that we have. One of the areas that we're working in Spain. Of all the things that Anne was mentioning. And it's not the only element that we're working on, but it's the only law that we have in Europe, I believe, that aims to really ground all these different measures. So it's called the New Law on Science, Technology and Innovation. We have a series of articles in that new law which aim to enable us to achieve effective equality in this particular field.
Ahora, vale. Primero comentaros un...
First of all, let me just very quickly talk to you about the unit of, or the Women and Science Department, which forms part of the Ministry of Science and Innovation. Its aim is to design, foster, and to monitor equality policies, plans, programs, and measures in the field of research, development, and innovation, both within our scope, the scope of action of the Ministry of Science and Innovation, but also at a national level and an international level. So why do we do this? Well, I think that one of the reasons, one of the things that we need to ask ourselves is, why should we be doing all of this? Why is it necessary for us to be working towards effective gender equality? Well, there are many very varied reasons for doing this. First of all, it's because there is a legislative mandate to do it. We have a remit to do it. Our constitution says that all men and women should and are equal before the law, but also, and particularly in the field of science, we have our new Science Act, which tells us that we need to work to gender mainstream all of these issues. And then secondly, we have the political will to do this. We want gender equality to form part of all the different policies that are developed. Of course, if we're talking about, bestowing rights on more than 50% of the population, then this is basically a question of social justice, because we are, at the end of the day, talking about 50% of the population, and we deserve to have the same rights as the other 50%. It's as simple as that. But it's not just this. As well as all of this, well, Maria Angeles yesterday was talking a little bit about the data and giving us the facts and figures, or this morning, in fact, she was talking about facts and figures. But companies and businesses work better.
Una startup dirigida.
If you have a startup which is run by women, these startups tend to get into debt less often. They tend to have more profit, and this actually happens with all sorts of different businesses. There are studies that tell us all about the economic improvements that come from involving women more in the business world, in the science world, in the technology world, especially in leadership positions. And in terms of sustainability as well, it's important to do this. Because of the way we have been brought up, women are much more prone to care for other things and other people. And it's not just that, you know, we women have a specific section of our brain which is dedicated to this. It's not nature, it's nurture. We've been brought up to do this for generations now. And in fact, it's often couched in negative terms as something that we shouldn't be doing, but we should look at it in positive terms. The fact that women are more prone to caring for other people and other things is an advantage, and it should be seen as such in our society, because it's going to help us to have a more sustainable society and a fairer society. And given the current moment, I think we should say that it's important to notice that when women participate in conflict resolution, the peace that is achieved is much longer lasting, it's more durable. So I think it's important to include women, and I think these are reasons enough to be focusing on gender equality, and especially in the field of research and technology. So now, in this conference, we need to then think, if we want to achieve this equality, how can we achieve it? And I believe that there are 4 fronts that we have to be fighting at the same time. First of all, we need to raise awareness, because the first problem that we come across when we talk about the importance of generating effective equality is that many people say, yes, but you women already have all the rights you need. And I wish that were true, but it's not. And when we talk about the gender divide or the gender gap in science and technology, the lack of the presence of women is the response that it provokes is, well, you know, who cares? You women have the right to choose, you freedom of choice. If you don't choose to study these degrees, then there's no problem with that. What's the problem? So it's very important, in order to resolve a problem, to be aware that a problem actually exists, or else it's impossible to solve it. And the fact that women are not participating in certain areas, and of course the fact that men are not participating in other areas, is in fact a major problem that we need to overcome. The next step, once we have raised awareness, once we're all aware that there is a problem and that we need to solve it, is that we need to find a way of making sure that women are attracted to all professions. If all careers and areas were equally attractive, then there would be 50-50 split, gender split in all different areas. And that's not the case. So there are certain factors which are preventing women from accessing certain jobs, certain areas. And it's not just a case of attracting women initially to these areas, it's making sure that they stay and prosper under equal conditions. Because if there is one thing that is common to all the different knowledge areas, it is no matter how many women are there at the beginning of our careers, it's very difficult for women in all areas of life to actually progress and to reach higher level positions. And then we also need to integrate all of this knowledge with the different interests that affect women. So at the end of the day, we need to review the knowledge that we have. We need to rethink the knowledge, we need to rethink science, we need to rethink history, we need to rethink all of these different elements in order to make sure that all of these areas include the contributions made by women, so that women don't remain invisible in them. But we need to be also incorporating the female perspective, so that science and technology is not just done from a male perspective, taking into account the interests that are interesting to men. And it's important for all of us to work towards this, men and women alike. Now, policymakers and people who work in the administration have a very heavy responsibility. We need to create policies that will make sure that this equality is a reality, but research centres and researchers as well, unless we are also aware that this change is in our hands as well, then nothing will happen, nothing will change. So it's a change that we all need to be a part of, and we also need to be aware of the fact that it's not just our obligation, it's actually an opportunity. It's not a problem that doesn't have a solution. If we work together, we can find a solution to it. And in this last area in the administration, this is where we are working at the moment. This is where the change needs to take place. We started here by saying, oh, there was something wrong with women, they need to be encouraged. Well, I think we've overcome that now. We are now aware of the fact that what is required is a structural change and a change in knowledge as well, which is where the new law comes in, the new science law, the Science Act, which applies the current European context to the Spanish framework, and above all, and I'm going to show you some of the articles, some of the specific articles that focus on gender equality. But what it does is it offers something which is absolutely fundamental, and that is legal security. Now, I'm sure that all of us on many occasions have found that we've had this following response. Oh, you can't do this because it's anti-constitutional. Because, you can't just give more opportunities to women because men have to have the same opportunities as women. Yes, it's true. We have to have the same effective opportunities, but that doesn't mean giving the same thing. It doesn't mean giving the same thing, giving the same opportunities doesn't mean guaranteeing equality. You can't give everyone the same and say that's equal. If you have, for example, the same thing in the field of disabilities. We're going to give everyone a bicycle. Well, you can't give a disabled person a bicycle because it won't make any difference to them. You need to give them an adapted bicycle, and the same thing applies here. We need to have a framework of legal security so that positive measures can, in fact, be effective. And all of this is a novelty. It's something new, and it's something that we should be very proud of this, because we're actually ahead of the European legislation in this particular sense. It's great for us Spaniards to feel that we're actually ahead in something, at least, because we get we have an imposter complex in Spain as well, and we often feel that we're lagging behind. So it's really good, and we should congratulate ourselves on the fact that we are ahead in this particular field. We have a law, an act, where it states very specifically that equality is absolutely binding by law, that the law means that we have to do everything in our power to achieve equality. So I'm just going to highlight some of the articles of the Act, the specific articles, that all the articles that are going to be talking about integrating the gender perspective in the Spanish science, technology and innovation system. First one is that we have a dual approach in the following way. It has to be cross-cutting. It has to be, it needs to integrate all the different instruments. So it needs to be mainstreamed, basically, but also with specific measures. So when we're talking about innovation, research, etc., we're always going to have to take into account the gender perspective, so that needs to be mainstreamed into all the different areas and everywhere that we work. But in addition to that, specific measures will be established as well in order to move towards effective and real gender equality. And this, of course, is translated into the obligatory nature of having gender balance in different decision-making bodies. Unless it's impossible because there's only one person on the board, for example. So that person will have to represent the least represented body. It also says that In the strategy, the Spanish strategy for science, technology and innovation, we're going to be including specific mainstreamed measures. So gender mainstreaming should be considered in all areas of research, right from the definition of the issues to be researched. So when a research team gets together and think, right, what are we going to research? Well, that needs to be done with a gender perspective, because unless we start thinking about it right from the word go, then we will only be researching issues that are interesting for or concerning for men. It's a very, very masculine area, this. So women's issues and problems haven't been researched to the same extent as male ones. It also, the new law talks about how it's important to promote specifically gender-based perspectives from an inclusive and intercultural perspective and vision, always taking the cross-cutting nature of it and the mainstreaming of it into account. We will be promoting the presence and leadership of women. So specific measures will be taken to eliminate gender biases. We were talking about the John and Jennifer effect earlier. This is something that is important to take into account here. And also we will need to integrate the scientific analysis of the gender dimension into the content of the projects.
Que solicitar los proyectos.
So whenever we apply for a project, it will be mandatory in the European context to contemplate this gender dimension. So here we also have this article where it is established that the same opportunities will be guaranteed to all individuals, so that they're not penalized due to motherhood, care, family work balance, gender violence, etc. Also, it would be taken into consideration that whenever an assessment needs to be carried out, we are assessed or supported by specialists. This article also states that gender equality plans are mandatory. It includes protocols against sexual harassment, and very importantly, the follow-up should be carried out, meaning that this is not a document that is going to be put in a drawer and forgotten about. The measures need to be effective, and there will be an assessment. Then we also need effective equality, or measures to achieve effective equality. Then some examples are included here, like support to women in their careers, entrepreneurship, etc. And here we have this legal framework I was talking about, and positive, specific and positive measures to help us to achieve equality. Of course, the law talks and states about that we need to promote inclusive, safe and equal work environments to prevent and detect early and eradicate any direct or indirect discrimination, and we need measures to integrate intersectionality. And then this article goes deep into the topic of measures to avoid bias, etc., etc. And since I've run out of time, I will stop here. Thank you very much indeed.
También es una carrera contra...
This is a race against inequality and a race against time as well. Let's see if we have some time left at the end of this roundtable for questions. And this is our last speaker from the Basque Country, Cristina Uriarte, who is a doctor in chemistry, professor at the University of the Basque Country, and as a chair in ANECA since September 2020. She's a High Commissioner for Science, Technology and Innovation of the Basque Government. And she has also was a regional minister for innovation in the past term of office, and also Minister for Innovation for the previous term of office. So, Cristina, the floor is all yours.
Bueno, entzuten da bai. Egunon eta eskerrik asko.
Good morning, thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this conference. According to the data from Eurostat, 36.6% of the female researchers in the Basque Country are women. Of all researchers in the Basque Country, 39% in Spain and 33.7% in Europe. This is not by chance. This is something that has been so over the past few years. And what do we do? What are we doing about this in the Basque Country? Well, we're taking science and technology seriously. We are committed to the equality, and we have this very special legal framework where we have Law 4/2005 for the equality of women and men, and its subsequent modification in Law 1/2022, Law for Equality of Women and Men and Lives Free of Sexist Violence Against Women. Well, this law states that both the government and all its different departments and the rest of the public administrations in the Basque Country and other organizations and bodies, according to the Article 15, must have plans and programs that include specific measures that are aimed at promoting the equality between men and women in their internal work and in their activity outside. And there must be an annual follow-up and other measures in the field of the university. So this is our legal framework, and all our policies and strategies incorporate a number of different measures. If we look at science, technology and innovation, our framework strategy is the Science, Technology and Innovation Plan, Euskadi 2030, what we call the PCTI 2030. This PCTI guarantees a triple transition: technological, digital, energy, climate and social and health transition as a consequence of the impact that the global trends have on the Basque Country. This triple transition, if tackled adequately, will lead to a more digital Basque Country, a greener one, and a more inclusive Basque Country, of course. As for the Basque strategic context, this PCTI is integrated in a global strategy for the whole of the Basque Country that is committed to the sustainable development. And here we have sustainable growth and human development. On the other hand, two main elements. The Basque Country is aligned with the SDGs that have been incorporated to the Basque Country Agenda 2030. All of its programs and measures include the gender perspective in the Basque Country so that the different situations are taken into consideration. The PCTI in the Basque Country, PCTI 2030, is a commitment by the Basque government having a nationwide approach that is aligned to European policies, like for instance the Horizon Europe Research Framework Program presented by Pépin, the Digital Europe Program, Next Generation EU, and the European Green Pact. So, this is a context to foster R&D&I as a lever for the Basque economy to become better. For the first time, the PCTI 2030 will contribute to 5 challenges: energy and climate change, health, employment, digital transformation, and gender equality. All of them closely related to the UN SDGs and also related to the mentioned 3 transitions. So the plan includes 3 strategic pillars and 1 main core. The first one would be scientific excellence, second, industrial technology leadership, and third, open innovation. And at the core we have talent. So these 4 elements will be essential and need to contribute in a balanced way to achieving the vision of the plan. So talent is key in this PCTI 2030 because it's at the core for the development of the other 3 pillars. This pillar is based in implementing the following working lines: reinforcing the mechanisms to generate, attract and retain talent in the Basque network for science and technology, promoting innovation and of technological and research talent, fostering digital competencies and facilitating the way they can be acquired, fostering gender equality in science, technology, and innovation to reduce the gap and promote equal opportunities, rights, and opportunities, and so contribute to the sustainable development and inclusive growth in the Basque Country. And it will be relevant to take into consideration gender perspective in research and design of innovative solutions in the fields related to the global challenges like climate change or health, since this is a factor that can determine the quality of the outcomes. And then finally, foster STEM training, scientific and technical training, and dissemination of scientific and technological culture in the society as a whole. The plan defines 4 operational objectives for its development in 4 different measurement fields, and it includes 18 indicators that you see on the screen. The 4th objective is to promote scientific technological talent, especially among women. If we look at this objective, the promotion of talent concentrates not just on scientific technological agents, but also in the industrial fabric that requires researchers and experts in technology to understand local R&D and therefore enable implementing strategies for the development of our own technology. So the presence of women among the researchers has increased in the past few years. We still need to work on that because there's still a gap between the access to positions of responsibility or management positions. According to recent data, in the Basque Country, 36.6% of the researchers are women, versus the European average that is 33.71%. This gap is not by chance. As I said earlier on, this presence of women researchers is more important in the public research system, including higher education, where they represent 46%, and it is low in the private sector, in companies where women represent only 31.3% of researchers. Although probably in the next roundtable, you will be given more data. According to the latest report on science in the Basque Country 2022, made by Basque, over the past decade, the number of men and women that have had a viva in Basque has been similar, and the new doctors are slightly more women than men. In spite of that, the growth of the growing population hasn't significantly contributed to reduce the gender gap. According to this Basque report, over the past decades, quantitative studies with gender perspective have been carried out that have been given visibility to the participation of women in research, aimed at developing mechanisms and policies that favor equality between men and women in the field of science and technology. Taking into consideration a good position with respect to Europe and wanted to move forward in this field towards equality, the PCTI 2030 in the Basque Country includes a dashboard with an objective of 40% female researchers in 2030. So this objective is aligned with the Horizon Europe framework program aimed at equality between men and women. In order to move forward and achieve these objectives by 2030, we require the support of different departments at the government and different public agencies that are managing different programs and support to R&D and I. All of them have equality plans, including measures to foster the presence of women in the field of science, technology, and innovation. Also, universities, technology centers, research centers, and other important organizations are included here. On top of this PCTI objective, which is a gender balance in the research team at all levels, and in line with the European strategy, we need to move forward in equality in decision-making processes. And for that, the departments of the Basque government are incorporating the gender perspective in the evaluation of R&D and I projects, so that the private sector improves its ratio in this sense. Some elements that are taken into consideration are the presence of women in management positions in the teams, and at the same time, the presence of women is being increased. We're also incorporating equality articles in the programs of scientific education to take into consideration when the CVs are assessed the leaves of absence due to care or motherhood. There are a number of different strategies and initiatives having different objectives, like, for instance, the STEAM strategy in Euskadi, in the Basque Country, to promote scientific technical education and training at all educational stages involving socio-economic stakeholders. All these initiatives include the STEM prize, some STEM meetings as well, and a number of different initiatives as well. The PCTI 2030 also fosters communication and the dissemination of science and technology to help us to think about the presence of women in this field. The recognition of women researchers that are normally given by the Department of Education and Basque is an initiative in the framework of the strategic plan of Basque. It's established that one of the main objectives is to move forward towards gender equality and the incorporation of women in research. In this sense, the equality plan drafted by the Basque Foundation for Science, Basque, includes this action aimed at giving prizes to women researchers yearly. The objective is to make women researchers visible so that they inspire the new generations. We also have held the first meeting of female researchers organized by the BRTA in the Basque Country. The objective of this initiative is to empower female researchers, to make them visible so that they become benchmarks to promote intergenerational communication. And finally, I would say that these achievements are possible thanks to our collaboration. This is teamwork, and this is only possible thanks to teamwork and collaboration. Thank you very much for your attention.
Eskerrik asko. Muchísimas gracias. Gracias a las tres.
Thank you very much to all three of you. We now have time for questions from the floor, as we said earlier on. So if you have a question, please raise your hands and someone will be giving you a mic. Cristina, since you ended your presentation talking about partnership and collaboration for us to move forward together, I would like to maybe ask all three of you about coordination as a challenge, right? Since we have a common joint need and mandate, and at all three levels we see a clear will to align public policies. How can this be done? How can we get an efficient coordination so that we lay solid and joint foundations here? Of course, there are differences, but this would be a key matter. What's the challenge here concerning coordination in the different institutions you come from?
If you're comfortable with it.
Sure. Sorry, I need to take that. My voice in my ears. I think what I briefly presented, so this new subgroup of the new governance structure at the European research area level. So the subgroup for Action 5, where you have member state, countries associated to Horizon Europe, and stakeholder organization. That's really where we want the exchange of experience and the policy coordination with specific tasks, really, to come up with a strategy, EU baselines against gender-based violence. So that's really where I see it possible. I mean, it's been conceived like that, and Spain is a very active member and is also in the specific task force on gender-based violence. So well, we have great hopes that this will be a place where we can have some policy coordination. Plus, we have programs that I presented briefly, projects that are supporting policy coordination. So both really at the political level and on the ground, funded by Horizon Europe, projects that are advancing, making benchmarking, creating tools. So.
Sí. A ver, la verdad es que
Yes, I think that at the Spanish level, we have a high diversity. And this means that we need to work harder when it comes to coordinating ourselves. It's true that we are very dynamic, very actively working at a European level from our ministry, because we want to we work in this ERA group, and we are coordinated with the European group on Action 5. But also in Spain, all the actions are coordinated so that gender is not just gender perspective is not just limited to this field, but rather is applied in a cross-cutting way and mainstreamed into all ministries. Then we have another level of coordination, because we have in Spain autonomous communities, and of course research centers are highly independent in Spain, and therefore most of the research is carried out either in the universities or in the research centers, and also in the companies, but to a lesser extent. And therefore we need to provide them with the necessary tools, and we need to work in coordination with the research centers. And this is hard, because you can have like a punitive approach, and you can, of course, control if they are abiding by the existing legislation, but we want to have a more positive and constructive approach. And in July 2023, a royal decree was passed for the recognition of a certificate on gender equality in R&D and I, for instance. So the idea with all of this is to foster this gender equality based policy in the institutions, so that it's institutions themselves that are interested, so that we're not imposing, right, but rather collaborating, supporting, and helping everyone to include the gender perspective, gender equality.
Es importante, por un lado,
Yes, I believe that on the one hand, when we speak about assessment and follow-up, that means that if all stakeholders and all departments in the administration have their own equality plans, we need to follow them up and just assess them. But that also already requires a certain degree of coordination. Besides the policies developed in the different or by the different departments or agents or stakeholders, we have strategies where all these actions are included. And I can talk to you about the Basque University System Plan or other tools. The fact that in all calls we already have this article including the equality, gender equality. I think that all of this helps us to work together in the same direction. And then it is also true that in the administration we have someone, a person, or different people working on the coordination, working on the follow-up of the programs, and this requires coordination. That's my point.
Me están indicando también que vamos.
We're doing very badly for time, and anyhow, since the next round table will be dealing with this gender perspective in science and technology, can you talk to us about the basic principles that are underlying the proposal made by the different laws and strategies and norms, etc.? What else can we do to incentivize, to foster participation by all stakeholders. And I'm thinking about the academia, but also companies. How can we help them to participate in the inspiring principles established by the laws? How can we increase the coordination level, if I can use that term, between the generation of the passing of laws and the practice of stakeholders? Anne?
Well, money talks. So asking organization to have a gender equality plan, and if you don't have money from the European Framework Program, that's a good way to get the organization to listen and to start working. But of course, it's not enough. If you give also guidance, tools, support, and incentives, or like the prize that we created. So really, and the idea here is really to create role models and a champions league, let's say, of organizations that are really advanced in implementing gender equality plans. So it's also looking up to that and looking forward and getting ideas on how to advance. But again, setting things as obligations, mandatory. And if you don't get money, then this is quite a strong lever.
For sure. Totalmente. Al final todos sabemos.
Absolutely, yes. At the end of the day, we know how things work. If you don't include that, you will not be eligible for a project, then that's it. Money talks, as you said. And the important thing here is that maybe this type of requirement, well, at first, you may not have it very clear in your mind, but since you have to do it, then you do it. What's important is that it goes on, right? And it's implemented over and over again in the different organizations. And then, on the other hand, we can organize events like this one. And here it is key that we can transmit, we're able to transmit that there is this need to implement gender equality, and making science and technology with a gender perspective is making better science and technology for all. I mean, this is not just a problem of women, it's a problem of the whole of the society. We need to integrate women in science and technology so that we have a greater social impact. So there's this pedagogical side of things. We need to tell things, make things known, so that this is not something that's made because it's compulsory, but rather because we are convinced it needs to be done. Well, I think that the main pillars here are, first of all, education. We need to talk to young girls and boys from a very early age, and then communication and socialization. We all need to believe in it. We all need to work in the same direction. That's key. Okay. That was the question then, and it would be a good question for the next roundtable after the coffee break. Shall we stop here? Yes? Thank you very much. And then a warm round of applause for all three members of this panel. Thank you very much.
Mila esker. Thank you very much for this interesting roundtable. A menos cuarto nos volvemos a ver. Por favor, puntualidad.
We'll come back here at 11:45 sharp. Thank you very much.